we'll do a little La Plata architecture tour. Extremely grand and very stately. Very cool, very highly detailed building, but a very different architectural style, and that is the theater, one of the earliest buildings built here in La Plata. Very architecturally significant house. Welcome back everyone to La Plata, Argentina. We are back here out in Plaza Moreno, where we were in our last video. And in our last video we talked about how this city, La Plata, is a very interesting history in that it was chosen, the site of the city was chosen here in 1882, and the founding stone was placed right there in the center of the plaza, in what is the geographical center of the city. The city was completely planned before it was constructed by civil engineer Pedro Benoit. And it's very interesting because the way the city was planned and laid out is it's like a very organized city. It's organized in a very interesting way. And it's very different from a lot of cities that you see that were sort of built out and expanded basically by necessity. This city was planned, and the majority of it was built all pretty much at the same time. So, in this video, we're going to talk more about the very, very ingenious design of the city, and we're going to check out some of the architecture that the city is famous for, like this building right here, the Municipal Palace, one of the earliest buildings built here in La Plata, and a bunch of other really cool architecture from La Plata. So, come along. Thanks for clicking on the video. If you want to help out the channel and help it grow, I really would appreciate it. Click on the like button down there, the subscribe button, and the little bell next to it to be notified for when new videos drop. It really helps the channel grow because it's going to help the YouTube algorithm recognize this content and spread it to other YouTube viewers. If you'd like to support the channel monetarily, I would appreciate that as well. You can leave a super thanks by clicking this thanks button here and give a small donation to the channel. I appreciate your support. So back to the video, enjoy. So the first thing I have to say about this entire video is I'm going to be referring to directions north, south, east, west, and technically La Plata is on a diagonal. It follows the estuary which runs on a diagonal. And just to keep things, I don't know, like straight in my mind, I always refer to like towards the estuary as north, even though that's really like northeast, and away from the estuary as south. Then going towards Buenos Aires, that's west, and away from Buenos Aires, that's east. So just to orient yourself, that's what I mean when I say north, south, east, west. So we're here in front of the Municipal Palace, the city hall basically, the main municipal building for the city of La Plata. And like I said, this is one of the oldest buildings in La Plata. They started building it in 1883, the year after the city was founded. And it's right across the square, Plaza Moreno, from the cathedral, which was started construction the very next year in 1884. And this city, like I've mentioned, is a very interesting plan, the layout of the city. Now, where we are right now in Plaza Moreno is the geographical center of the city. Now, the way the city was originally planned, I'll show you here on this map. You can see there, it's a big square, and there's a ring road that goes all the way around the outside of the city here. Now, the city itself has expanded past that ring road, but the original planned section of the city is still a very, very large part of the city. Like the majority of the city was already planned out. And what's very interesting about it is there are these diagonal streets that run through the grid. The whole city is a large grid. These diagonal streets that run through like systematically at certain intervals. And on the intersections of all the diagonals, there are these plazas. And all the plazas are equally spaced apart. They're 6 blocks apart, each one. Which is very cool because it makes it very easy to navigate the city. Another thing is all the streets are numbers. There's no named streets in La Plata. And the numbers themselves follow a system as well. The streets that run east-west, starting with the street that runs right in front of the train station of La Plata, which is Avenida Uno, right? Avenue 1. Now, every 6 blocks, you have an avenue, the next avenue, and the streets in between are streets, calles, right? So, starting with Avenida Uno, as you go south, block by block, the street numbers increase. So, if you're at Avenida Uno and you go down 1 block, you're at Calle Dos, 2nd Street, then 3rd, then 4th, then 5, and then 7, 6 blocks after Avenida Uno, you have another avenue, Avenue 7, Avenue 7. And it continues just like that as you head south through the city, all the way down with avenues every 6 blocks. And like I said, at the intersection of certain streets, there are large plazas. And eventually when you get down to the southern part of the city down here, you hit Avenida 31, and that's the southern border of the ring road. So it's like the southern part of the original part of the planned city. And then from there, the streets continue, the numbers continue, starting with the north-south streets all the way on the western side of the city over here, with 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, etc., etc. And every 6 blocks, you have another avenue. So it's all laid out very, very systematically. And every 6 blocks heading north or south, and every 6 blocks heading east or west, you end up with these diagonal streets that cross, and that's where you have these plazas, beautiful plazas in all of the different parts of the city. Now the diagonals, once you get all the way across to the eastern side of the city with the numbers counting upwards, you get to Avenida Avenida 72, right? Avenue 72. And then the diagonal numbers start with diagonal 73 and diagonal 74, the 2 main diagonals that cross the entire square and that meet up right here in Plaza Moreno. So what's really interesting is right here in Plaza Moreno, the diagonals 73 and 74, they cross this plaza. But this plaza is actually wider than 1 block. And so what happens here, another part of the planning, is there should be, like right over there, that's Avenida 53, and 51 is over there. So there should be a 52. There should be a 52 running right through the middle of this plaza. But because the plaza is more than a block wide, it's like 4 blocks wide, 2 in the middle here, and 2 extra blocks on each side. There is no 53, and no 52. Where there should be a 52, like right down the center of this plaza from north over there to south over there, there is a long strip of land that runs actually all the way from Paseo del Bosque, the entrance of Paseo del Bosque, up here, as you can see on the map, runs south all the way through the city, and the majority of the municipal buildings are actually lined up all along this corridor. So all of the government buildings that are needed for the city and for the province, they're all along this corridor here, where Street 52 should be, but isn't. And one of the really good things about it for someone like me who is visiting the city is it's really, really easy to find your way around, to tell a taxi or an Uber, where you're going, to ask for directions, to even give directions if you know what you're talking about, and also to tell the bus where you're getting off so they can calculate your bus fare. It's super, super easy because it's just laid out so systematically. If I get a little lost in the city, right, and I look at a corner, I figure out what corner I'm on. As long as I know what direction I'm facing, I could just figure out exactly how to get to wherever I need to go, because it's just a matter of being able to count. And if you can just count the streets, you can get where you need to go. It's very, very cool. Very, very cool layout. So I think we should go take a little look around, because like I mentioned, the train station of La Plata is a beautiful, beautiful building. There's Paseo del Bosque, the large city park up in the northern part of the city, which actually has some very cool stuff in there as well. I think we're going to be making a video dedicated entirely to that park because there is some very, very cool stuff in there, including a museum, the Museum of La Plata, natural history or natural science museum that is very, very famous across the entire country and was also constructed very, very soon after the founding of the city. It's one of the oldest buildings in the city. So let's go and head around the city to a few different spots, and we'll take a look at some of the architecture and the famous locations in the city. Just do a little tour. We'll do a little La Plata architecture tour. So let's go. So we're kind of going to be jumping around different places around the city in this video. I do want to head up the corridor, as it were, of all the governmental buildings from here in Plaza Moreno up north, because there are a few really, really interesting buildings up there, historically significant and architecturally significant buildings. But we'll be, like I said, we'll be jumping around because there are some other buildings that are either related in some way or they're not exactly on the corridor, and we want to check those out too. So from the Municipal Palace here in Plaza Moreno, if we head north up 51st, Street 51, there are several government buildings that are actually quite old, very cool architecture. Also another building that has a very different style of architecture that we want to check out. But between here, for like 6 blocks basically between here and the next plaza, which is Plaza San Martin, there's a bunch of stuff we can take a look at. First, we can get a view of the back side of the Municipal Palace here, which is very cool. I like that it's not exactly symmetrical. You know, it has the tower in the front and the little rotunda on the back. It's a very cool design. And from every angle too, every side of the block that you look at it, it's very, very cool. I like it. I like it a lot. The more I look at it, and I've gone through Plaza Moreno a couple of times now and seen it, I really like the design on this building. And right on the corner, next to the Municipal Palace, on the back side, at Avenida 53, Avenue 53, and Calle 11, 11th Street, there's this building, which is the radio of La Plata, La Radio de Buenos Aires province. And this is actually I think a public radio station that's operated by the government, but it's in this super cool building with this tower, this very, very interesting rounded tower. And you can see, I don't know, it's kind of hard to see from here, but there is the radio tower sticking up behind. Super cool building. Let's see if we can get a better shot from the side. It's got such an interesting facade on it with lots of designs, like the columns that have basically like sculptures of people cut out of them. Very cool, very highly detailed building. Just a style of architecture that I really, really enjoy, and it's a kind of architecture that you actually do see in a lot of places in cities in Argentina. You see it in Rosario, you see it in Buenos Aires, you see it here in La Plata because of the major construction, economic, and immigration boom from like 1880 up through the early 20th century. So this style is very popular, of course, at that time, this very lavish architectural style. So it's very cool to see. We walk around the other side of the block here. We're going up Avenue 53, Avenida 53, and the avenues, some of them I think, I don't think all of them, but some of them have this very, very beautiful walk down the center. So you can walk right down the center of the street, and lined with tons of huge trees on either side. Very, very cool. It reminds me quite a bit of our time spent in Mendoza, Argentina, with all the trees. Beautiful, beautiful trees in that city. And it's very nice to take a walk through what is basically a tiny little skinny park that runs up the avenue. So from here on Avenida 51, just on the other side of the municipal palace. There's this building, which actually looks like they're doing some work on the facade here, so a lot of it's covered. Unfortunately, it's not easy to see from directly in front, but this is the Ministerio de Producción, Ciencia y Tecnología, I think. The Ministry of Production, Science, and Technology. It's a very cool building. In the same very old, lavish kind of, I don't know, Gilded Age style from like the Baroque, I guess it would be style from the late 1800s, early 1900s. A very, very cool building here. Right next to the Seguros Federación Patronal, which, I don't know, not exactly the same architectural style. But very interestingly, right here on the corner of 51, 51, y 10, and 10, there is a very significant, architecturally significant building, and a very famous landmark building here in La Plata, but a very different architectural style, and that is the theater, the Teatro Argentino. And this is in the brutalist style. Now this actually is a much newer building, of course. There was actually a theater that was much older, built just after the founding of La Plata in the early the late 1800s, in like 1880s, 1890s. And it was in the same style of like some of the other buildings we've seen, the Municipal Palace and the Ministry of Production over there. But it was actually replaced, it was torn down and replaced with this building of this brutalist style. The original Teatro Argentino had a very similar construction style, very similar architectural style to Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires, where we visited in a previous video. Link to that in the description. The history is, unfortunately, it was built, all the way back in like 1887, I think it started, and construction finished in 1890. So for nearly 100 years, it stood right here on the same corner, and eventually in 1977, unfortunately, there was a fire that severely damaged the theater. And rather than restore the old theater, the government decided to tear it down, and they had like plans, like essentially a lot of architects submitted plans for a new building, and this is the one that was chosen. Now, I'm not really a big fan of brutalist architecture normally. I prefer much more like Baroque and like neoclassical architecture, like you see in like Teatro Colón and things like that. A lot of brutalist buildings, frankly, I think are pretty ugly, but this one actually is pretty cool. This is one of the ones that I think is pretty nice. And of course, from here, it looks different from different angles. To really see it, you have to really look at it from above to see like how big and grand it is. So if you look at this picture here, and you see it from above, how it takes up the whole double-wide block, it is a pretty imposing structure for sure. And the theater itself, Teatro Argentino, is probably like the second most renowned opera house in all of Argentina after Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires. So, very important building right here along our walk along the 52 corridor. About 1 block away from Plaza San Martin, here is the Federal Court of La Plata, Tribunales Federales de La Plata. Federal Courthouse. I think it's kind of a cool building. It's got that very, Parisian style architecture that we've seen in some other buildings too. But the more important building around here is just around the corner. That is this building right here, the Legislature of Buenos Aires Province. Now this is a really cool building. It's a big building. It goes like an entire block all the way back that way. I really would love to get a shot of it from across the street in Plaza San Martin, but unfortunately, at the time we're here, beautiful Plaza San Martin is closed off for renovation. But you can see across the plaza on the other side is the governor's mansion, the governor's residence for Buenos Aires province. We're going to go over and take a closer look at that. But take one last look here at the legislature of Buenos Aires province. Beautiful building. Really beautiful Baroque architecture. And very similar to the governor's residence over there. Also here on Plaza San Martin is the Pasaje Dardo Rocha Cultural Center. Very classic Parisian style building, which I think actually used to be the former train station. At the end of this video, we're actually going to go see the current train station of La Plata, because it's also a very, very cool, building architecturally, I think. But as we can continue on here around the Plaza San Martin, over this construction fence, we'll get around to the corner. We'll head around and see the governor's mansion. Here on the other side of Plaza San Martin is the governor's office, governor's residence. I think it's the governor's residence and the governor's office. But it's a very, very cool building. It looks very, it's a similar type of architecture as like a lot of the other buildings. But I don't know, there's something more grand about this one, right? Extremely grand and very stately. It's the kind of place where, if you were coming for an official visit to meet with the governor, you'd roll up to this building and be impressed. I think that was the whole point of it when they built it back in the, I think, likely 1880s. I'm not sure exactly on this building. The thing is most of these things in La Plata that we're seeing, especially these ones with this very sort of Baroque, very lavish architecture style, they're all built back in like the 1880s and 1890s. Right after the foundation of La Plata, when there was a huge, huge construction boom here. And it really is a very, very cool building. One final look at it from right across the street. Very cool building, man. Here, about a block off of Plaza San Martin, there's a beautiful little plazoleta. And right across from this church, La Basilica San Ponciano. And this is actually one of the oldest churches in La Plata. And very, very cool design. It's not a very large church. I mean, it's nowhere near as big as the cathedral on Plaza Moreno, but it's very cool design, very old. And I think it may be open. We may be able to get inside and take a look. Let's see if we can. Right down the block from the Basilica, there is this school, Liceo Victor Mercante. It's a high school of the UNLP, the Universidad Nacional de La Plata. It's like a teaching high school where teachers in training get to teach the students here. But this building itself actually was, I think, the original school in La Plata, like the first school that was built here back in 1884, I think, just a couple years after the founding of the city. Now, it moved out of this building. It's no longer in this building. That school, it's an escuela normal, like a primary school, I think. And that school actually moved to another pretty cool building over, back by Plaza Moreno, right next to the cathedral. And actually, we can warp over there in a second to take a look at that building as well. But this is the original building of the Escuela Normal Nacional Número 1, the first school in La Plata. Here with the cathedral right behind me, right across the street, across 51st, 51, there is the newer location of the Escuela Normal Nacional Número 1, the first school. This is named after Mario Graham, the first director of the school. Very cool architecture, like a Parisian style architecture. This was built in the 1920s and 30s. The land was actually donated by Sarmiento, President Sarmiento, who we made a video about actually. Link in the description for that guy. Very important, a president who was very dedicated to education for the nation of Argentina. It's very cool to see this school because, you know, as we mentioned when we saw the other school, the what is now the high school, that was, you know, the original Escuela Normal Nacional Número 1, the first one here in La Plata, built like all the way back in 1884. It was started right after the founding of the city. But eventually it moved over here, and it's been here ever since like the 1930s. And here on the Plaza Moreno on the other side of the cathedral, there is the Archbishop of La Plata. Right there in that building. Very cool building, also in the, I don't know, sort of the same style, very kind of Parisian looking style as the school, the Mario Graham School. Now, I wasn't actually able to find very much information about this building itself, but just judging from where it's located, you know, right next to the cathedral, right here on Plaza Moreno, and its architecture style, it leads me to believe that it is pretty old, probably one of the oldest buildings here in La Plata. If anybody down in the comments has more information about this building than I do, and I'm sure somebody does, let me know. Let me know a little more about the history of this building, because I think it's quite a striking building, and it sort of is very, very nice complement to the school, which is right on the other side, the Mario Graham School. The two buildings, very similar in architectural style, that sort of frame the cathedral here in La Plata. Just off of Plaza San Martin is this building, the Universidad Nacional de La Plata. Put my camera through the gate here. This is the office of the president of the Universidad Nacional de La Plata, the National University of La Plata, which, of course, before it was National University of La Plata, it was the Provincial University of Buenos Aires. And originally, when La Plata was founded, that's, I think, what this building was. I think this is the original building of the University of La Plata, which was later turned into the Universidad Nacional de La Plata. So I think this is the original building. Very, very cool. And right next to the University of La Plata, Universidad Nacional, is Banco de la Nación de Argentina, the National Bank of Argentina. Also a very, very cool old, like, Parisian style building. And right here next to the Universidad. A block down from the National Bank of Argentina is this building, the Honorable Cámara Senadores. It's the Senate. We saw the legislature of Buenos Aires province before, that very, very large building on Plaza San Martin, and this is about a block away from the legislature building, the Senate. This building actually has a very cool, like, rotunda in the center with a dome on top. You can't really see it from here. Hopefully I can find a picture of it from above. If I can, I'll cut in the picture here and you can see it in a little more detail. So here we arrived at the northern end of the corridor, the Street 52 corridor with all the governmental buildings. And we're here in Plaza Rivadavia. Plaza dedicated to former Argentine President Bernardo Rivadavia. There's a statue of Rivadavia right up there. And on this plaza, there are actually a couple of significant buildings. One of them a government building that's behind us, but before we look at it, right up here across the street is Plaza Almirante Guillermo Brown. Admiral Guillermo Brown. And that plaza right across the street is actually the entrance to the Paseo del Bosque, which is like the city forest. It's a big city park with lots of stuff in there to see, including the Natural History Museum, or Natural Science Museum, the Museo de la Plata. Very famous, very cool museum. We're actually going to do a whole video just about Paseo del Bosque because that park is huge. There's a lot of cool stuff to see in there. It's going to get its own video. So we'll show all of that off in that video, but also here on the Plaza Rivadavia is the Minister of Security building, Ministerio de Seguridad. And this is one of the many government buildings along the corridor here that we've been looking at. Very cool building. Has that very with the columns in front, a very sort of almost like Baroque. I don't know. I'm not quite sure on the styles of architecture. As we've been going through all these buildings, and I've been saying like, oh, this is a brutalist and this is like a neoclassical. I'm just guessing. Let's be honest. Like, I like looking at buildings like this, and I think that's cool. But I'm not like a super like architecture nerd and expert. But maybe there's some in the comments who can correct me on all the things that I've been saying wrong. But the Ministerio de Seguridad right here, and also, interestingly, not a government building, but also on this square, right down here, there is a building right over here on the side of the square that the architecture, if you'll notice, looks pretty different from the architecture that we've been seeing and from the architecture around it in like these parts of the city. This white building over here, very modern looking, next to the white, very sort of like neoclassical looking building. But that white building right there, that very modern white building, is the Casa Curuchet. And the Curuchet house. And it was owned by a Dr. Pedro Curuchet. And the interesting thing about it is designed by the famous Swiss-French architect Le Corbusier. And it is the only Le Corbusier design in the Americas. So it is very, very architecturally significant house that has actually now been, for the last like 20 years or so, donated and maintained by the College of Architecture of the province of Buenos Aires. Very, very cool. And I think you may be able to go in and tour that house. I'm not sure. We may have to figure that out, because that may end up getting its own video as well. Let's just go across the street real quick and get a closer look of the Casa Curuchet. This is like, for those who don't know, Le Corbusier is a very, very famous architect from the mid 20th century. This I think was commissioned in like the 1940s, sometime in like the late 1940s, and is a very, very unique design, especially when compared to like the other architecture around the city. Very modern for its time. And here you can see Boulevard Le Corbusier. And they've named this Boulevard Le Corbusier after the architect Le Corbusier. Very cool house. And here, if we head 8 blocks down west from Plaza Rivadavia, we arrive here at Estación La Plata, the train station of La Plata, the current train station of La Plata. A very cool building, I think, this train station. This is where, when you take the train from along the Roca line, out of Plaza Constitucion in Buenos Aires. You take it all the way out to La Plata. It ends up right here at this station. You can see the long, like, part of the station there where the trains come in, where the platforms are. And this super cool, super cool building in the front with the dome, the clock on it. It's a very cool design building. Now, fun fact about this building, I was told by our friend Herman, who we met in the video about the Ferro Club Argentino, link in the description of that video. But our friend Herman, he told us that this building actually was featured in the 1990s Brad Pitt film 7 Years in Tibet, and it doubled in that film as a like a train station in Austria, in like Nazi-controlled Austria at the outbreak of World War II. So that's actually, I've seen that movie. This station is in the opening scene of that movie. So if you've never seen that movie, one, you should see it because it's a really good movie. But two, you can check out the train station in La Plata here, posing as a train station in Austria in the opening scene. I think that's gonna do it for the video. We have seen a lot of really good examples of the beautiful architecture here in La Plata. And man, I've been walking around a lot to make this video, and I'm pretty tired. My feet hurt, and I think I'm just gonna head down here to the bus stop, catch the bus, and head out of here. But it's just a little taste of the city, beautiful city of La Plata, and also the very cool city planning and urban design of the city. A city that was planned from the start and transformed what was basically just a giant field out here in Buenos Aires province into the beautiful city that it is today. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I really enjoyed making it. I really enjoyed seeing all of these different places. And shout out to Herman, our friend Herman, who I mentioned from the video about the Ferro Club Argentino. He actually gave me the idea for this video. He himself is an architect, and he gave me the idea for the video. He showed me some of the examples of buildings that I should check out. So thank you, Herman, once again, buddy. Muchas gracias, amigo. And like I said, that's it for the video. We're calling it. Hope you enjoyed it, and plenty more coming from here in La Plata. We'll see you in the next one.